Hey, Mr. Grinch here. Now that AltSound 2.0 is out in the wild, there's a lot of renewed interest in alt sounds, which also means a lot of questions. One of the most common questions revolves around volume. Some people say alt sounds are too loud, others say they are too muted. In this video, I'll show you a couple of ways to fix them to get the sound that you want. First, let's talk about why your alt sounds might be too low. Historically, alt sounds were too low because the original code changes the volume based on signals sent from the ROM. For a lot of virtual pinball users, this doesn't work correctly, and the resulting playback volume is too low. AltSound 2.0 provides a way to turn this feature off. The way to do it is in the .ini file that is automatically generated by the AltSound 2 code the first time that you run a table. Some of the newer AltSound 2.0 packages will already contain this ini file. To locate this file, you're going to go to the folder that contains your alt sound that you want to modify. In this case, I'm looking at the Playboy table. And right down here, you see the AltSound.ini file. If you don't have this file, then it either means you're not running the latest vpinMain 3.6 build, which contains the AltSound 2 code, or you haven't run the table yet for the first time. Before you can continue, you need to resolve that issue, and then you can come back here. What you want to do is open the AltSound.ini file. Down here in the system section, you'll see a variable called ROM volume control. By default, ROM volume control is set to 1. This replicates the behavior of the original AltSound code. In our case, we want to turn this feature off, so set it to 0 and save the file. This prevents the AltSound processing code from trying to mess with the volume based on signals it's receiving from the ROM. Once you've saved that file, run the table again. If that solves your problem, great, then you're done. If that doesn't solve your problem, then the likely culprit is that the original AltSound package used gain values that were too low or too high, depending on what problem you're trying to solve. There are two ways that you can fix it that I'll talk about here. The first is to modify the .csv file in a text editor and change the gain values to what you want. Another option is to load the CSV into a spreadsheet such as Excel or Google Sheets. I prefer to use the spreadsheet option because it's easier to read, easier to work with, and you have more protections against accidentally changing something in the file that could cause the alt sound to not work. Before we proceed, I highly recommend that you back up the CSV file so that you don't accidentally modify it and can't recover. What I'm going to do is just rename it here. I'm going to put a slash in front of it. The first method I'm going to show you is to use a text editor. Again, this is not my preferred way, but it can be done if you're careful. Load it into your text editor. I use Notepad++. You can use whatever you like. And there's our CSV. As you can see, it's not very readable. It's one of the things I don't like about doing it this way. At the top, you'll see the header, which contains the name that identifies what each column is for. We have the ID, channel, duck, and gain. Gain is the one that we care about, and that is the fourth column in this CSV. If you look at the file, you have ID, channel, duck, and gain. Mine, Notepad++ just goes and highlights them all. What you can do is modify this value. If it's too low, raise it up. If it's too high, raise it down. Again, be very careful that you're editing only what's between the commas. If you accidentally do something like and delete that comma, which is a comma mistake, then your alt sound will not work or not work correctly, and trying to find the problem will be very difficult in this mess of text. So be very careful. You can either change them one at a time, or you can use some other method like find and replace to change a bunch of them very quickly. It all depends on what it is you want to do. Alt sound authors who create very good packages will typically have different gain values depending on what the sounds are for and what they're meant to work with. And that produces a more balanced and layered sound. It's up to you. It's a trial and error thing. If you just want them louder, go ahead and change them. Based on the fact that these are all 50, it looks to me like this perhaps used to be a pin sound format that somebody just converted to traditional alt sound, which is why these values are like this. So that's that way to modify the file. Another way is to load it into Google Sheets. And this is my preferred way. The first step you're going to do is open up the alt sound just like I have it here. And I'm going to select everything with Control A. And then I'm going to copy it with Control C. Then I'm going to bring up Google Sheets. I have it set up here with a blank sheet all ready to go. And what you want to do is go to the very topmost corner, A1, and do Control V to paste it. And what you'll notice is that in the first cell of this column, it put the entire line of the CSV file. We don't want that because all this is just another way to look at it similar to the text file. Here, what we're going to do is we're going to split the text into columns. By default, Google Sheets will automatically try to determine how to break up the columns, which in this case will use commas. It could be spaces, it could be colons, it could be something else. And it will do it automatically. But we'll split text to columns. And what you'll notice here is that it brings up this separator. So here you can actually specify what you want if you have something different, but this is a comma separated file, so I think we want to stick with commas. And I'll leave it at detect automatically. Click the little A cell up here to select the entire column because we want to convert the whole thing. And you want to do data, split text to columns. And notice how much more readable this is. And I can edit just the value I want by going to the cell. I mean, sure, I can go accidentally over here, but it's obvious that I'm editing this field. Another great feature is that, I mean, if I wanted to, I could select the entire thing and change them all at once, or I could change one and go ahead and copy it and then bring it all the way down if I want to just go ahead and change them all, and then Control V to paste it. And now they're all changed. So now you've modified your file and you need to save these changes. The way to do it in this case is to go File, Download, Comma Separated Values. And it'll bring up a dialog box. And because I loaded it from here, it's already in my folder, and you can see here. And I renamed the file to protect it from changes. So I'm going to start just by clicking it to get the file name populated here. And then I'm going to remove that underscore so that it just says altsound.csv and save it. And it's done. We can confirm by going into our text editor and opening the file. And as you can see, we have our nicely formatted CSV, and the gain is set to 90 all the way across the board, just like we intended. Well, in this case, I only went halfway down. But anyway, but that's how you do it. And go ahead and test it in your table. And this should resolve any problems you have. So enjoy. I hope you like alt sounds. I think it adds a lot to the game when it's needed. And I hope this goes a long way to remove some of the problems that you have working with AltSound, especially now that the AltSound 2.0 is available. And stay tuned for some exciting new features of AltSound 2 coming out very soon. Peace.